Thank you for joining us for another For Investors by Investors Long Beach Cerritos podcast. As always, we're proud to be your all-education real estate resource without any kind of sales pitch. If you'd like to attend one of our meetings in person, we meet on the last Thursday of each month at the Cerritos Library in Cerritos, California. You can RSVP at meetup.com/for investors by investors. To find more investment resources such as blogs and podcasts and content from other FIBI groups, go to forinvestorsbyinvestors.com and search our entire library. Now on to the podcast.
All of our FIBI chapters, you won't get sold anything at all. Any of our chapters that do that, we want to know about it. So this was really put together because they wanted a place to go where you can network and get educated without that kind of pitch involved, where you can actually really dive in, meet the people within real estate that have the different resources that you don't have. So that being said, we have some sponsors here that help us run this. We actually don't make any money at these events. So I'm going to just do a quick run through of some of our sponsors and some of our upcoming events that are coming. And I'll excuse the weird slide as I get through this. Let's see. So next month, we have State of the Economy and how to do proper due diligence on your real estate deals. The 25th is here, and the other one is in South Bay. We do one at the Point in El Segundo, so good place to go. Here's our sponsors. We have Trillion Capital in the room, and make sure I see her first. Last time, I was like, I didn't see her in the room, so please, can you tell us a little bit about what Trillion is?
Three of the runners stand up here.
Whatever works there.
You guys keep turning around. So we're Trillion Capital. Right here next. So we're Trillion Capital. We're a hard money lender. We are truly asset based in the fact that we don't do personal guarantees at all. So it's truly based on the asset. We do 80. Sometimes we can get up to 90% of purchase price, depending on how much room there is in the deal to keep us safe. And one of the best parts about working with Trillion that I love is that people tell us we're very easy to work with. So we have people that are, doing 20 a year that can get cheaper money, but they choose to work with us because they can get their money when they need it. So we fund draws for rehabs in about 3 days, sometimes 2, sometimes 4, but in about 3 days. What else do we want to do? Oh, we have no junk fees at all. Still catching me. No junk fees at all, so no loan doc fees, no other hidden fees at all. So we just want to get together with you and help you make money.
Who here has actually used hard money lender before or private money lender before for their deals? Okay, cool.
Are there any gap funders in the room, like for private money people who like to do gap money? No. Okay, unfortunate.
Me?
Are you? Okay.
Okay.
Occasionally we have a deal where someone's gap funding falls out at the last second. We'd like to help them and someone else get some money too.
Interesting.
Okay, thanks, guys.
So from a hard money lending perspective, understanding that to fund a deal very quickly, it can be really important, especially if you're trying to wholesale deals off and that wholesaler falls out and you need your hard money lender or your private lender to be there immediately. Like, I get good rates in out of state. I don't lend in California at all, but I get really good rates in out of state. Same type of thing where they pay me more because I'm there in 2 days or in 3 days.
Yeah, we can close in 2 or 3 days.
And what happens is a lot of the private lenders, they go through and they throw in, I want a $2,000 underwriting fee or a $1,000 underwriting fee along with this fee and this fee and this fee, and it ends up being 2 or 3 more points. So it's really refreshing to have a hard money lender that actually doesn't have the junk, which is why there's sponsors here. So.
And we also don't charge for draws, which is something that seems so crazy to pay to get your own money that you're paying for. So we don't charge for that at all. Yeah. So thanks. Yeah.
You direct. Yeah.
So with a self-directed IRA, you can invest in assets outside of the stock market. You can use an IRA fund to invest in real estate. You can use it to invest in private companies. You can use it to invest in notes, our topic tonight. You can make loans. You can buy existing notes. You can use it in a lot of different existing assets with a self-directed IRA. If it's something you're trying to get out of the stock market, you might want to consider alternative assets, and that's something we can help with. Appreciate it.
I have a self-directed 401k, health savings account, IRA, and all of them can be used to invest in real estate, to do promissory notes, to do a ton of different things that you could never do with traditional, brokerage houses and things like that. That the Fidelities and the Schwabs and those types of things allow you to invest in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. Self-directed IRAs, IRA custodians, they're basically very similar, except their fees are disclosed to you up front instead of hidden in junk fees and in trades, and you get to control your own money. You get to actually use that to be able to control your own destiny, your own retirement through cash flow. So it's really, really interesting. Let's see, Concept 360. Robin and Will, how's it going?
Good. So we own Concept 360 Property Management. We're a property management company in Long Beach, and we manage property in Long Beach in the South Bay. We go to North Orange County as well. We manage single-family and multifamily properties. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. So Robin primarily focuses in the Long Beach and Southern California area, right?
Yeah.
Long Beach. And where do you think you go up to, or where's your range of
We go
property?
north to like El Segundo.
Okay.
We go down to we have some stuff in Fullerton, Fullerton Beach.
Having a good property manager on your team, especially in California with the tenant landlord laws here, is very, very key to be able to make sure that you have professionals knowing what you're doing. So many people try to manage their own properties, and they do the evictions wrong. They make major mistakes that can cost them a ton of money down the line. So thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate it. New Western acquisition. Do we have anybody in the room from? Oh, cool. New Western.
So we provide inventory to investors. So we'll do single family, 1 to 4 units, LA County, Orange County, Inland Empire. We get our inventory from probate, short sales, notice of defaults, foreclosures, and we want to work directly with principals. Just kind of makes everything easier. We cut off all the commission costs, and we directly get quick access to the property as well.
I like to call them New Western wholesalers on crack. They do like a lot of volume.
I've never heard of better description.
It works. So let's see here. Hart King. I don't think we have anybody from Hart King here. They are real estate attorneys. I use them a lot for my own contracts and things like that. And then the Note Assistance Program. You're going to learn all about them. They're amazing. They're our primary speakers tonight because we're going to be talking about notes, and so we'll bring them up in a second. They're amazing, but we'll talk about them. OCG Properties is my company. I'm going to leave that alone too, but what I want to do is I want to take you guys, if this actually works. What is it? Intelligent investing. Okay, I can't find it, of course, right now. So if you go to our website, there we go. Splash that. I don't know what splash that is. There we go. So we are having on November 10th and 11th, Intelligent Investors Real Estate Conference. I had to make sure I spelled intelligent right, which I don't. I'm a math guy, not a spelling guy. Anyways, so I knew that was the reason. I'm not giving the website because I'm spelling intelligent wrong. So this event is going to be very interesting. It's called Learn, Network, Invest, Intelligent Investors Real Estate Conference 2018. It's actually thrown by FIBI and Cash Flow Connections, so there will be zero sales pitch involved at this event as well. We have tons of amazing speakers that you guys can come see. We have a great topic list on this site, from multifamilies to multifamily investing to fixing and flipping to buy and holds. Yeah, in the back.
Is Cody Sperber headlining?
Cody, I don't believe so.
That's false advertising.
Is he on there? He was on the top? That was him?
Intelligent investor.
Oh,
They're
okay.
going to speak live on.
Oh, did he? Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I know him, so. But, so that event, we're going to be doing every topic you can possibly think of, from cash flowing real estate, international investing, to multifamily, to flipping, to holding, promissory notes. We're going to be doing a ton of different stuff there. So feel free to join us. I believe it's $4.95 for the 2-day weekend, so it's relatively cheap compared to the normal conferences. But it's going to be a great event. So you guys can go to meetup.com to our site there and find us there. That being said, normally what I like to do is go around the room and give introductions. We have a lot of people here in the room today, so I'm not going to go do that. But what I want you guys to do is afterwards, half of this event is specifically geared towards networking. So I want you to meet the different people in the room and develop the resources in the room. When I started networking and developing resources from people like you guys, my business exploded. In the very beginning, I was going to 4 to 5 networking events per week, every single week, to develop those relationships, to develop the people with capital sources, develop people with properties, people with skill sets. Could you imagine the number of team members that can be in this room that have different skill sets in different ways that they may not even know how valuable that skill set is? And so, or that relationship that they have with that $1 million family member or $10 million family member or friend or whatever it is that does different things. So keep all that in mind when you're like, I'm not sure how I can participate. You don't need money to participate in real estate, okay? You need someone else's money to do that. Okay. That being said, what I'd like to do is Raymond here is my co-host for FIBI Cerritos Long Beach. We were in Long Beach for forever, and then we decided to bring. That was when my office was in Long Beach, and now I'd rather be in a more centralized location. So tell us a little bit about what you do, Raymond.
So my name is Raymond Tsai. I'm from KW Realty, Kim Marty. And I specialize in residential real estate, especially contingency sales. So we help owners who want to move don't have to move twice. And this year we're looking to help about 100 families to complete a transaction this year. And that's pretty much what I do. And the main reason I'm here, I'm sure a lot of you are too, for me is to look for more opportunities, more source of income for my clients. For California, if you just want to be a landlord here, everybody knows the cap rate is about this. So here there's a lot more opportunities. If you walk around talking to different people, you are going to see different returns and a lot of methods of making money is I've never heard before. So utilize that and then work afterwards. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Jasmine, Natasha, please. Everybody, have a round of applause for Thank you, guys. These girls, I say guys because of my California lingo. I'm sorry. I'm going to call you dude halfway through the presentation, too. So they're probably some of the most experienced note investors that I've ever met. Have a ton of great information for you guys today. And I told them I'm not going to write my normal questions for this because they're too experienced, and I figure we'll just have some fun with this. So that being said,
challenge accepted.
Yeah, that's awesome. Exactly, awesome. Natasha, can you give us a little bit about your background and what you do?
Yeah, I knew that. Can you guys? Is this on? Am I on?
I think so.
Am I? I knew Matt and I were cool when a few weeks ago he emailed me and he put "dude" in all big letters. So I was like, we're here now. So, my name's Natasha. I've been note investing for about 3 years. I've had experience in real estate for about the past 20 years doing flips and rentals and I was like, is that me?
Yeah.
It is me?
You didn't do it until you grabbed it, but it's doing it now.
That's weird.
Do I have to be the robot the whole time they're talking? It's going to be uncomfortable.
Well, we'll switch it up if that happens. So.
I probably talk a lot loud enough anyway. Or I'll just turn this on.
Can you get Jackie to help with the...
It's okay. Can you guys hear me without the...
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just do it without it. So I started investing about 3 years ago. I bought my first house when I was 21. I was in the military, so I was able to buy it on a VA loan, no money down, very little monthly payment. And I brought in 2 of my military roommates to rent rooms out. And I realized not only could I pay my mortgage, but I could have cash flow. So I fell in love with real estate very quickly. This is like, I'm so... It's okay, I don't need it. Yeah, but it's doing a weird noise. Oh, it's not. That wasn't the issue. It's okay. I'm okay.
It's okay. That's all right. We'll be all right.
Thank you.
This room echoes. We're good.
Yeah, no worries. So that was my first home, and I thought, I'm really good at real estate because I know what I'm doing now. divorce and had to try to sell my house around 2007, 8, when my house was now worth about $300,000 less than what I bought it for. And then I realized I'm not really good at real estate. I'm horrible at real estate. And so by the time I was 25, I've had this emotional roller coaster and love affair with real estate. But I never gave up. I went on to do a wholesaling company, and I then moved, and I was in Arizona, and then I moved to California, and I did some flips, and I tried wholesaling. And that was not for me either. After sending 2,000 letters out a week on my own and working a full-time job, it was just too much. And then about 3 years ago, I saw this crazy lady in a pink hat speaking at an event about notes, and I thought to myself, this has to be illegal. I've never heard of it in all this time. Like, there's something wrong with this scenario. But I fell in love with her, and I fell in love with notes, and I've never looked back, and I've given up all my rentals, all my wholesaling, all my everything, and I do notes full-time now.
Awesome.
That's huge. I love that story.
So, what about yourself, Jasmine?
Goodness gracious, 6 years into this stuff, right?
Started 5 years old and go from there.
Nice. I will not. That's a lot. I'm old, so we're not doing that. So I'm originally from New York, so that's where the little eccentric stuff comes from, why you guys don't understand me, so just don't even try it, right? That's this whole East Coast thing. But I was raised out here in Southern California, so that's why it's in disguise, right? But deep down, I'm a New Yorker. Background is I have a degree in economics, and I have an MBA in marketing and a minor in industrial organization. And so before I got into this business, I was a stockbroker. I did some human resources for a while. But then I was a day trader with Morgan Stanley, Dean Witter, and out of the World Trade Center and out of San Francisco. So that's my background as a financial advisor, investment banker, and day trader with some personal skills. And I started with investing because, to be honest with you, they blew up my building, right? World Trade Center just kind of disappeared one day. And I was like, wow. So at the mid life crisis. I don't know how many mids there were involved with that, because I was pretty young. And decided to come back to California. And actually, I was in San Francisco at the time, but I wanted to come back to San Diego, which is where my family was, in which they ran, the like micro real estate enterprise, right? The property managers, real estate agents. And so I was raised on real estate, and it was really a natural thing. I think my little excursion to the equity world is what made notes make so much sense to me. So I had the foundation of real estate. I think it's what all of you have here. So understand that you have one leg in already, right? And then what I was able to bring to it was that trading side to it. And so that's why I'm really good at talking to the bankers. I used to run a club in San Diego, much like you do now, so I'm an ex-clubby. I used to run a club in Orange County in San Diego. It's called Lady Landlords of San Diego, and Lady Landlords of Orange County, and that's pretty much where I got most of my infamous fame from, right? So people remember me from back then. We used to throw some nice little, warm engagement parties for people to just to invest. So I want to do things differently, right? And so we had, my mascot literally was a palm tree. I would roll that thing in every day to the tree, so you guys know that this is not the place to be stiff. And so that was really what took with me, and I took that attitude towards the note business. I met a hedge fund manager about 6-7 years ago who was determined, I don't know what, but he was determined to get me notes. And he kept knocking on my door. He kept saying, you need to do notes. And I'm like, leave me alone. I'm making nice margins flipping. I have a nice club. But then, for the ladies in here who can understand, I ended up getting pregnant and I had a child. So that changes your life, right? Can I get an amen? Anyone? Okay, men, you can speak up too, right, Matt? Okay, excuse me. He's like, I want to speak.
You have no idea.
Right. I have no idea.
Well, yeah, you do, actually. Never mind.
But that's how you feel, right? You have no idea. So that was me. Life-changing situation. I realized I needed to work smarter, not harder, and that's just it. Okay, you guys, how many flippers do we have in the room, just by show of hands? Renters, landlords?
You forget, we live in California. There's like very few
we
flippers
try.
now. Yeah,
We
there's
try.
no property.
We try. Landlords, though, right? So in my opinion, you guys work really hard, right? And so everything's relative, right? But notes offered me an opportunity to work smarter, in my opinion, not harder. I decided I did not want to wonder if my property manager was making up a bill. I wanted to decide if my kid was making up a lie to me. That's what I wanted to spend my time on, right? I have a new kid to focus on. I didn't want to chase my painter around to find out if he used tape. I wanted to chase my child around to find out if he did not. Tape his sister to the wall. So that's where my priorities changed. And so I actually went back to that gentleman after he pursued me for a while and just kind of in my own proposition, and that's where I was. I ended up working with a hedge fund manager for about 3 to 4 years in the business, and learned, and a lot of gurus, to be honest, and learned what they were doing that I thought could be done differently to improve on that. And so that's where it came with the note assistance program. Ran into this young lady. As far as I'm concerned, she was a spitting image of me, minus the hat. And I was like, I think I can make something out of her. And here we are. She's on the road with me. We just got back from Atlanta, educating people in Georgia about notes. And really, it's just the program's about hands-on, and that's what you're seeing here.
Was that with the Think Realty conference?
Yeah.
That was. Yeah, we're actually looking at potentially a relationship with Think Realty. And
I heard a rumor about that, but I'm going to be
kind
quiet.
of interesting. So Think Realty is a media company that doesn't sell anything. They just specifically go through and spit out tons of amazing content. So we're becoming affiliates and things like that with them, and they're having a media company backing you is kind of interesting. So that's the
and then nationwide, so it's huge.
Right, absolutely. So so it's funny you say that you went through that transition. I'm going through that same transition right now.
Cool.
I
get it.
I have a 3-month-old daughter and a 3-year-old boy, and I'm going, why am I flipping this many houses every month, and why am I doing all this extra work, and I just need to have everybody else do the work for me somehow, So I flip about 5 to 10 houses a month right now. I've been doing it for 10 years. We flipped over 700 houses. We do a lot of value-add multifamilies. We lend. Right now we have about $8 to $10 million lent out in any market, in a bunch of different markets around the country. We run FIBI here, and we have a short-term rental business as well. So my wife is like, "Why are you starting all these businesses right now?" It's pretty funny. So, but it's a lot more fun than doing accounting and taxes and all that fun junk with working for a CPA firm, being bored out of your mind. So anybody looking at quitting their job, it's very hard to do it in real estate, but it's 100% worth it at the end of the day. I don't care if you lose everything like I did. It's worth it. And it's actually probably better if you lose everything, because you can't go any further down from there, right? I thought my whole life was built on my credit score. I thought it was dope when I wasn't. I quit my CPA firm job in 2006, so I was a genius for like a year, and then I lost all my teeth and got a black eye and everything else you could possibly think of. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me too, because that's when I learned how to raise private money. That's when I learned how to never rely on banks, to actually go through and take a lot more control. And I was very green at the time, not knowing what the heck I was doing or how to get out of a situation. That's one thing real estate does for you, is it helps you find solutions to solve problems. Every single deal, there's a problem that needs to be solved. And so after doing 700 of these stupid things, you realize, oh, that one again. Okay, let me do this. That one again. Okay, do this.
An appraisal issue did it, right?
Right. I was just saying, an appraiser told me to go, that one of their contingencies was to take an extension cord out of the attic. I was like, I just want to punch him in the face, but he's in St. Louis, so I can't. But it's how it works. So let's get into it. Let's talk a little bit about notes and how you guys can invest. Who here invests in notes? Okay. Who here is a realtor or involved in real estate full time in any way, shape, or form? Okay. So if you guys don't understand how notes work, you're leaving money on the table if you're involved in real estate full time. And if you're not involved in real estate full time, you're leaving money on the table too. Okay? By not understanding the passive nature of notes and how they can work to your advantage. So what I'd really like to do, and I'm going to start with Natasha, because you're just going to, you're going to answer the question like that, and then Natasha, I want to give her a chance to speak, because I know the pink hat is going to come out. She's going to be like this, running back and forth in a second, for sure. I love it. I can't wait. So Natasha, can you explain a little bit about what notes are and how they work in a general term?
Right. So basically, how many in here own any type of home? Got own home, a rental home, something. So you guys are all in the note game. You're just on the other side of it. You're on the consumer side of it. So what we're teaching you how to do is be the bank. There's 2 pieces of paper that are attached to any note. So you have the promissory note and the deed. Either the trust deed or a contractor deed, depending on where you are in the world, in the States. They just call the same thing with different names. And so what we're really buying, and the hardest thing for people to recognize, is you are not buying a house. You are not investing in a property. You are investing in paper. You are buying the 2 pieces of paper that are attached to that property.
So you have to make sure that you're comfortable knowing that when you send a wire for $100,000 to seller X, they're not sending you a house, they're not sending you keys, they're sending you a file. It has a bunch of papers in there, and most of the time the papers are wrong. And you have to spend your time fixing those papers to make sure that it's now in your name and you can record the deed if it's in certain states in your name. But you at no point in time own the property. So that's the biggest differentiation I can make between doing an REO and flipping and renting versus being a note buyer.
And what's the reason? I mean, what does the note say, and what's the reason why you're buying the note in the first place?
It's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah, I totally understand. So it's completely loaded.
Are they usually not performing, or?
Yeah, well, what we like to buy are non-performing notes, but we've actually gotten into a little bit more performing as well. So, say as an example, you go to Bank of America, you have someone who spent $100,000, which is very unrealistic in California, but let's just work those numbers. $100,000 on a note. Regardless if you're paying that note or not, at some point in time down the road, you probably got something in the mail that said, hey, now instead of sending your paper to Bank of America, you're going to send your payment to this person. Guess what? That's Bank of Natasha, right? Like, I have the opportunity now to go and buy your mortgage regardless if it's performing or non-performing. Where the most money is to be made, however, is when that person with Bank of America is no longer paying their mortgage. And Bank of America says, you know what, $100,000 or less, I don't have time to spend my resources on taking this property to foreclosure. So I'm going to sell it to you, Bank of Natasha, for $50,000, even though they still owe $100,000. And so then I'm buying it at 50% of the value of the loan. Possibly there's equity now, so maybe I'm buying it at 30% value of the property. And then I get to decide as Bank of Natasha, what do I want to do? Do I want to go to them and help them get back to reperforming? Maybe do a loan modification? Do I want to create cash flow for myself and become a lien lord instead of landlord? Or maybe I just want to foreclose on them. They're not going to be able to pay. We've tried everything we could. It's just not the right fit for them. And I foreclose on that property and I take it back. And again, I'm only into it for the $50,000. So this is why we invest in notes.
And really, you're basically just all when they say note, she's talking about a promissory note, right? Which is all it really is a contract to pay. And so she's buying something that someone has promised to pay, but is not paying, and it's secured by the property so that she has collateral interest in that property. What I was getting at was the whole purpose of buying the notes is for cash flow. So you can get that cash flow or resell that note for a profit or work out that note. You're either flipping the note by working it out and reselling it, or you're holding it for that cash flow typically in that process. And so the whole idea behind it is to create financial freedom for yourself through investing in promissory notes specifically, through getting cash flow streams. The more you get people paying you every month, the more wealth you're going to make versus you paying them. Okay? Always getting people to get you paid, every month. Jasmine, can you talk a little bit about this is like a 4-day, 5-day class, but about the general, when you're buying a note, from the due diligence standpoint, not necessarily with all the paperwork, but maybe the general, the main pieces of paper, the main primary documents that you need, and also the property. What are the things that you're really looking at to protect yourself on a note?
Yeah, so basically the two documents she was speaking on, and I really want to pause and go back to it, right? So the promissory note is really huge because it's a financial instrument, period, amen. Okay? It's literally like a check. Okay, so short of you turning it over and endorsing it, that's what you guys do. When the next bank, when Natasha buys a note from me and I sell it to her, I have to endorse that promissory note as a check to her. Okay, so I want you to understand that you have one piece of instrument that transfers the property and the other one that transfers the actual financial instruments. Okay, so really what I want you to understand is that this is a process where you, for all intents and purposes, create money. Like you literally make money from your desk, right? If you can create a promissory note, that becomes a legal financial instrument, right? The banks recognize, right? You endorse now all of a sudden. This is one of the reasons why. How many of you, as a child, were like, I want to make money I'm going to print money from my desk? No, seriously. Anybody, or it's just me? Only me? Oh, well, that's where I feel, right?
Make $10,000 a month. We're making calls from home. No, I'm just kidding.
But
really
I feel like we create promissory notes.
Yeah.
I have the third party service that will. So I'll pick up the phone and say I need a promissory note created. They will do it in a legal form. I've created a legal instrument, which is now transferable. You understand? That I can leverage out and that I can sell, or that I can collect on. So that's the first thing, that if you don't leave here with anything, is that this is an industry where you can finally print your own money. Yay? Yes? You like that? All right, show me some energy in here. I just told you to print money. I'm out of here if that doesn't get you excited. I'm like, what?
And keep in mind, guys, this is a Q&A, so feel free to ask questions along the way. Bring up those questions that you guys want answered, because these are the right people that be answering those questions for you.
So then as far as the paperwork we're looking at, right, you're going to get something called a collateral file. That's what you're buying. And for those of you who raise your hand saying you've bought a traditional home from a traditional bank, you know what that is. It's for the millionth time. We want your name and address on another sheet of paper, right? We want you to sign here for the millionth time. And you're like, why do I have to have another sheet of paper? Because they're trying to sell me something. Okay? If you sell me a file for $100,000 or $30,000, all I get is 2 pieces of paper. Boo. I mean, you know. But if I get a complete file with your social security number, your driver's license, your TILA, your truth in lending, right? Your 1003. Am I speaking language to you guys? Right? The application, right? Let me know you're with me, right? All this stuff that you're filling out, they're going to put inside a manila envelope. It's not even more sexier than that. It's just a manila envelope. They throw it in that thing, right? And they put it in a storage bin or something. And while you're paying money, they wait for someone like myself to come along, whether it's performing or not, and offer them money for it. Okay? And so one of the things that really got me excited about this is I need you to understand the second thing. So one, I just told you you're printing money. If you're not excited about that's not the business for you. Okay? But the second thing I'm going to tell you is that it hit me one day that in the middle of the night while you guys are sleeping, think about this. While you're sleeping, I get to take over your mortgage. You wake up one day and you're like, what? Jasmine owns my mortgage? Yes, I do. All while you were sleeping. Silly rabbit. Now what? Talk to me. Send your mortgage. Call me. Let's talk. That's power. Yes or no?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes or no?
Yes.
That home is your most important thing in your portfolio. Yes or no? Yes. I'm taking control of it.
It's awesome. And it's interesting because you have a whole nother ball game of investments now that you can invest in, right? If you understand what to buy and what should be in that package that you're getting, which is half the time incomplete, right?
Yeah.
Then you are. You're basically buying something that creates a cash flow stream for you. And, you know, what's really interesting, I've invested with Natasha a few times, and the whole goal is someone's not paying, how do you get them repaying again so you can get this back? Or can you kick them out because they're not paying and they're maybe gone already or something like that too? And then how do you foreclose on that property and resell it for a profit, right?
And that could be your capital appreciation game. So I want you to understand there are two plays, right? Cash flow is the number one. You have to be comfortable with that, but you should be at this point in your life, right? It's a long game. All right, just to be honest, like we all know who's chasing NASDAQ and quick money, right? Most of us in this room need to be at the long game. Yes, guys? Okay, I'm just convincing you.
Yes.
Okay. But this does have the opportunity for capital appreciation as well, right? So this is where, for me, you know, I get excited because it's about crowds. Now, this is a pretty decent-sized crowd. I'm very excited for all of you guys coming here, but this is what I like, right? When I get invited to this group where there's 500 people in the room, not excited. This is not for 500 people. Only of 500 people or 50 people are this going to be a fit for. It's a game of brain, not brawn, right? And so you've got to be able to understand what's going on in order to be successful with this, right? And you have to understand that the brawn game, leave that to everyone else. If you can get an asset, like she just said, at 50% of the balance of the note, so let's say the house is worth $150, so now you're really at 33 cents of the dollar of the after repair value. Okay? Who's buying homes? Who is taught every day to buy homes at 60 cents on the dollar, 50 cents on the dollar of the ARV? Anybody? Yeah. Those are the people you want to sell to. It's easy money. You buy it, you foreclose on it, you take the time. You're getting that money because you have the patience to take it and we have the paper. Okay, so a lot of you guys are renovating homes. That's old stuff. Okay, we get files and they all mess up, and we renovate the file. We're like, oh, we need a signature here. This doesn't have a comma. These margins.
No construction materials.
Right, I got paper cuts now. I'm not chasing anyone, but these margins aren't good enough. This font isn't big enough. These are our problems.
Yeah, no, I was talking to some people earlier tonight that are wholesalers, and that's what I used to do. But what I love about what we do with notes is you're creating your own inventory. You don't have to go out and sit and do bandit signs. You don't have to go out and call 2,000 people or 2,000 letters and hope you maybe get one person to call you back, and then you're competing with 800 other wholesalers in the area. You can buy stuff at such a cheap price point that you're able to create your own inventory. And what's even better, and we'll get into later, is you don't even have to do it with your own money. You can do it with JV partners.
Who likes that?
Inventory.
Okay, there we go. All right.
Question over here, and then we'll come over here.
Where do you get? Where are the notes? Where do you find them?
Excellent. You want me to take it?
Go for it.
So that's probably the biggest problem with the industry, right? We get a lot of people that actually are trained, and then they're like, why did you not stay in the business where we can't get inventory? So inventory is probably the most coveted thing in this industry. It is where the power is, and it is where you will find people decide to take their stance. Okay? So we're a little different here at this firm, but just to recap, you are correct. Where do you find inventory? It's hard. Banks are not looking. You walk into Bank of America and say, I want to buy a non-performing note. The teller is going to look at you like you're crazy. There's no idea, right? They're not even privy to that side of the business. Okay? It's called separation of church and state. Tellers will never know what's really going on behind doors, right? And so you can't just roll up to the bank. You have to know the asset managers. You have to know these people. For those of us, and then there are also things called daisy chains, right? So you may find on LinkedIn a lot of people trying to sell notes. They may not be what's called direct to the seller. So for example, where you get them from? You get them from banks. Aquin, yes, they're still around. Bank of America, Wells Fargo. These are the guys that are underwriting like nobody's business. Trust me, they're selling as well. You've got hedge funds, so you've got big and small banks. So everyone from, again, those guys I named to the smaller community banks, right? Thanks to Dodd-Frank being loosened up a little bit, part of that was them allowing the smaller banks to start creating more paper, more mortgage, more lending. So they were down, I think, to around 30% of the inventory. Now they're up to like 50%, the small banks. So small banks are now creating more inventory, at least what we call inventory, paper. When they create it, they need to get rid of it. So I'm now starting to get calls from a lot of small banks in the Midwest saying, hey, I heard you buy. They want to sell to people that they know what they're doing. Okay? At no point can they just call up Dave and, don't know you, I'm just saying. Right? I don't know Dave. He looks criminal to me. I'm kidding. But at any point, do they want to go up to Dave and hand him a list of people's homes, addresses, social security numbers, first names, last names? Do you understand what I'm saying? And trust that he's going to do all right with it, right? And so, I'm sorry. I'm like, damn it.
That's awesome.
I don't even know. So that's where we are with that. So inventory is out there, but it's heavily guarded by not only the banks, but then once you get it, you're going to find it's hard to find someone coming from a place of abundance like we that want to just share it with you. And because they're afraid of you ruining their relationships, right? There's a lot of risk for both people, right? So we have a trade desk. Real quickly, I just want to tell you about it. And I think last month we released $58 million worth of UPB, which stands for unpaid balance. Okay.
I was going to say, Gina, you're one of our clients. Tell us how do you get inventory?
Yeah, why don't you tell us how do you get inventory? You're wrong for that one. She's so wrong for that
one. How
one.
do you literally get your inventory?
You don't know?
Email.
Just say that a little louder.
Email. Every month you get
a list, right? So that's what I love about notes is with REOs, with wholesaling, with all these other things, because I did all that stuff. You're out there, you're looking for bird dogs. You want your realtors to ring you pocket listings. You're out there hustling for deals. I get to sit in my pajamas, and every 3 to 4 weeks, I get a list on an Excel spreadsheet of all of the properties or assets and notes across the country that are available for sale. And there's a very small percentage of America that's bidding on those because most people, when you walk into your room, have never heard of notes before. So we're not competing against the HGTV people that are looking for REOs. We're not. We're competing against a very small percentage of people. And then within that little community, everyone's looking for different types of things. Some people are looking for reperforming, non-performing, performing, varying budgets, different states. Not everybody's looking for the exact same type of home. So I can sit there and look at $58 million worth of assets on an Excel spreadsheet and pick and choose which ones I want to put offers on from the comfort of my home. If one's not available, no big deal, because the next one probably will be. Or guess what? Next month I'll just get a brand new list. So it's just, inventory is never a problem here, and that's my favorite thing about notes.
And I mean, there's, other than the banks as well, and those big banks, you can always find private notes as well that you can purchase. And there's all kinds of cool things, ways to do that.
Let me speak on that too. Yeah, so I'm going to say, so you get them from the banks, you can get them from hedge funds, right? Small to large hedge funds, one of the largest hedge funds out there. And I'm not kidding, I'll tell you, right? A lot of people not tell you their sources. Write it down. Harbor Portfolio, they're one of the biggest guys out there. Vision Management, write that down. These guys sell notes. Now, can you call Vision tomorrow and say, Jasmine told me I have notes? You're probably not going to still sell them to you, right? They still need to know what you're going to do with them, how long you've established, all that stuff. But my point is that you've got smaller hedge funds as well. Then you have private individuals, right? So one thing I want to just let you guys understand is that long before the banks got into this, here's a little history, if you don't mind, in mortgages.
Please.
Long before the banks got into this, right? People were still buying homes and mortgaging, right? Can you imagine that? Okay. Well, before they decided to commercialize it, but what they were using before were called contract for deeds. Okay, so the mortgage is specifically an instrument created that the bigger banks use. So you can go out there and still find, especially in some of these rural places, right? I invest in a place called Kokomo, Indiana. Anyone ever heard of that place? Other than the Beach Boys song? Anybody? All right, well, Kokomo, Indiana, all these places. But in these more rural places, this is where you're going to find that type of paper. And so these are individual investors that you can buy paper from as well, right? Obviously, it's a little more dangerous and risky as far as the underwriting. Right, so just real quickly, like some of the seller financing guys, they may take a down payment of $500. Well, they're not real. That buyer's not too vested into that, right? Yeah. So I'd like to buy my performing notes, and we'll get into that more from bigger banks. They take 25% down. You understand? Mm-hmm. So that's the difference.
And there's some easy ways to find this stuff too by looking in your market and getting title reports from warranty from deeds of trust and things, mortgages against properties, and getting rid of all the banks, getting rid of all those types of people, and finding the individuals and trying to contact them in those different ways. That's just one way to do it. And then there's people like myself that I sell a lot of seller financed properties to international clients or IRAs that can't get traditional financing, but then they go put 40% down, and so it makes it much easier for me to go sell that note off. Yeah, exactly. It's performing. You're paying a coupon, so you're not going to pay 6%, 7% interest rate.
How many years?
You might. It's like a year seasoned, but so here's the thing. I don't want to do business with Jasmine because she's so good at this. So I'm going to be like, what are you getting me for? I don't know. So I wouldn't have her up here if she was going to do that. But
clearly talking himself out of deal. He's like, no, you don't want to buy my stuff. Buy your stuff, man.
No, I know, right? So no, but it's really interesting because those types of people like myself are out there all the time that have these notes that are available for sale, and you can come pick them up. Maybe I'm in a need for an immediate $20,000, and I have a $80,000 note, and I can sell her a payment stream or something like that, where she can make her interest rate on her money and get that specific payment stream, or I can sell her the whole note at a discount and be able to basically go through and get all the cash I need. There's tons of situations like that out there. So we had a question. We had a question here, and then one back over there.
Yeah. So I have a question. I was telling my friend, a guy that couldn't make it today, about notes, and he kept on saying, "Oh yeah, I'm really interested, but I only want to get second position." I said, "What are you talking about?" "Oh, that's the only thing there is up there. I only want to get second position." So maybe you can explain a little bit about the type of notes that you guys sell.
Yeah. So we deal specifically in the first position space. Now, he's correct. They have second, third, fourth. Believe it or not, you can go all the way to fifth and sixth. You can buy them. Now, risks come along with that. And so I would just suggest that this gentleman just has not been exposed to the first position, right? If you hear second, you buy them, and that's your thing. Seconds are very attractive, okay? But they're attractive for a reason. Why? Because of price point, right? You can get those things much cheaper than you get a first position, but obviously, and this is going to be a play to the women, and men may not get it, but who likes control? Women, we love it. So I'm all about first position. You can buy second position all day, but you're not in control. Okay? And that's why you get it for this much. Okay? So for me, I prefer, I'm long past that point in my life where I'm buying the cheap blender. I just go and buy the $500 blender so that I'm not buying 6 blenders every year. You understand? So I will pay for a decent asset, right? And it's not hard. We'll tell you what some decent prices, right? 33 cents on the dollar, 50% of the unpaid balance. So the pricing is fair. You can make money at it. I buy the first position because I am in control. So when the first position, the only people you really have to worry about are right, taxes, right? We all, no matter what, you got to do what? Die and pay taxes, right? So taxes are still an issue for you. If you're in a HOA state, then you worry about HOA liens like Florida, right? But usually in those states, I just buy the HOA lien because I like control. Right, buy the first position. So first position is really an HOA. And then like city ordinance liens and stuff like that, right? So those are the only things that I'm kowtowing to, if you will. And so that's why I buy first position. Seconds, I liken those to the tax game. So any of you guys tax deed investors? Tax deed and liens? Well, if you're not into that, it's kind of the same game as one. These are like towards the tail end of the investment life, right? So we started wholesaling, flipping, and eventually here. The taxes, it's one of those things, you buy 10 tax liens, 4 of them are going to work out and you're going to make your money. So you have to be comfortable with that, and it's a totally great game. You buy 10 first position notes, 10 first position notes are working out. And that's what I like about this game. They may not be working out all tomorrow at the same time, but you're making some pretty money and they're working out, and those are your assets. So
Can you explain what a first and second position note is for the people that don't know?
So it's just like if you go to Bank of America and you buy a house, you have your Bank of America is now in first position. And then you decide 5 years down the road that you want to take some money out on your home and you want to take out an additional loan on your property. That person is now in second position. So if something were to happen, as an example, and you stop paying your mortgage, the first person to get paid is Bank of America. That's all they care about. They're in first position, they get their money no matter what. If there's any money left over, maybe the second position gets paid, and then so on and so forth. So it's all about what's available, and that's why you, as the lender, it becomes more risky if you're buying second, third, fourth position, because if that first position eats up all that money, you're SOL. There is no way for you to get your money. Or in certain states, they can foreclose and they can wipe you out completely.
And that's my strategy, right? The second calls me, I'm like, and we're done. We just go through foreclosure and wipe them out.
When you say workout, how long do you have to wait to hold on?
Yeah, so I tell people, you want to brace yourself to averages between 6 to 8 months, right? If you're lucky, you're going to get some 3-monthers, right? Nothing's happening overnight here. I mean, the 3 months is just to get your paperwork, to be honest with you. So sometimes you wake up and you get a finished deal. I kid you not, you buy a note, right? This is what's genius, right? You buy something at a note price and you get it and it's already REO. Because if you're in a big bank, lawyer has no idea what the salesperson is doing. They don't talk to each other. He thinks it's still a note. Attorneys foreclose on it. They go to the mail room. The mail room sends you the file, and what do you have? A deed. It's been foreclosed.
So you don't have to foreclose on it.
You save all that time, you save all that stuff, the money, foreclosure costs, but that's a rare situation. So that's when I say that's like 3 to 4 month time, right? It's mostly waiting for the file, etc. But on average, you're going to take 6 to 8 months. I tell you to brace yourself about a year. If you're not going to listen, you're going to go out of my states. You can be up to 2 years, right? The returns there are healthy, though. That's what I want you to understand. I'm making returns that if I wake up a year and a half later, I'm still the happiest person in the real estate investment world. Period.
And how much work do you have to do during that time?
I mean, it really all depends on how much work you want to do, right? She talked about control. So it's like, how much control do you want in this process? What we teach people how to do is to build a team of people, because for me personally, I'm getting married next Saturday, and I'm going on multiple honeymoons because I'm bougie. And so I don't want to have to work that hard, right? So I have built up teams of people for me. I have my realtors that are on the ground. I have my attorneys. I have my servicers. I have my insurance. I have assistants now that are helping me. So I'm building up this team of people that I've taught, this is what I need to do. And now it's getting to a place where I have a large number of assets where an attorney will email me and say, hey, a week ago I asked you to fill out this document. Can you fill it out for me so I can finish? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. That's a much better position to be in than for you to be begging them to do stuff for you. So no longer do I work for anybody. They work for me. My team works for me. So it's really just about you building up your team and how much you want to be involved.
And let me just say this, right? There are so many. One of the best things about this space is there are so many ways to skin this cat. He just got finished telling you about somebody was saying about how there's another gentleman out here who teaches you how to. You can find notes creatively. Matt was saying you can go in and look on the title and call the people up and send out letters. There's so many ways to do this. I have a colleague of mine who teaches you to send out letters all day to private lenders, right? But he has problems getting to banks. I'm completely friendly with banks. I have a lot of bank inventory, right? And so you can do whatever you like. And so we teach you how to do this from a standpoint of someone who has a child and wants to only keep up with their child. That's all I'm telling you. It's all about delegation, right? But I have people who, empty nesters, want to have something to do. Like I promise you, I had a woman in Georgia say to me, "Did you know you didn't have to you don't have to be an attorney to do your own foreclosure?" I said, "I did not." But pray tell, I will never, ever want to do my own foreclosure. What in the world? Like I'm like quasi-attorney now. So you decide what you want to do, right? It's your asset. It's your thing. There's some Dodd-Frank laws, but like she said, we teach it from a standpoint of how to delegate and let the right people with the licenses and the training do it. I was not here to learn. I'm not here to teach you guys how to read title. I've learned to do it over the years. But that's what you want to learn, to do it through the process, not go to class and figure out how to learn title. That's boring.
And it's what's most important to you, your time or your money. That's always the answer as an investor that you have to, that's the question that you have to answer for yourself every single day. What's more important? And for me, my time is more important. So I'd rather pay someone that is knowledgeable in that area to handle it for me.
But obviously she has the money there and the margins, obviously, to pay, right? It's easy to say, pay someone. You'd be like, from where? You must be making money.
The thing is no matter what you're doing in real estate, that same logic applies. You just want to make sure that deal still works after cutting in the people that are going to help you do the work. And you have to rely on quality people, because that's the biggest challenge, is finding quality people that are reliable, that you can actually go through and help you with this stuff. So Rick is pointing his head through because he does all my underwriting for me. And he's like, he's my quality people. So that helps. She in the back and Jackie are my quality people here that help me with this stuff, that are reliable, that do what they say they're going to do. And that's the biggest challenge, because 90% of your team members initially are going to change because they don't, or they do for a while, then they don't, and then you got to find a new one. So getting backups in each one of those categories, and also getting referrals from other people that have had experience with those people already, that know they're reliable, that can get those deals done, is huge, or get that workload done is gigantic for you in the long run. So question over here?
Yes, I have a question. So you mentioned help desk, and then this young lady here, she was saying that she gets an email blast once a month. So once a person becomes affiliated with your company, do they buy under your company? I mean, like, is there like an investment and then they buy under your company, so now they look credible to the bank, or how does that work?
So you're really close. You're getting onto the entire plan, actually. So thanks for the question. It was a good question. No, but it's great. I think if your first question is, once you become comfortable with buying notes, how does that process go? Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Okay. So we have what we call our note trade desk. Okay. And just by show of hands, how many of you guys are actually involved with our company right now, so they know who to talk to and ask if I'm telling the truth or not? Okay. I know the end. They're going to come going to you. So these are some of the people in there, but. What's my train of thought?
Trade desk.
Trade desk. Yeah. So with the trade desk, you're going to get access to the inventory once we know that you're vetted and you're seasoned, you know what you're doing, and that is why the banks trust me to have it, because I don't sell to everyone. And I vet my sellers as well. But once you get those, what you're going to do is you're going to submit an offer to our trade desk. So all your trades, to answer you directly, are going to go through our trade desk, but you're going to negotiate directly with the bank. We have what's called a trade desk acknowledgement fee, which once you graduate, if you will, either from the 2-day training program, we have an online program you can take, or you can do the hands-on program. Once I know that you're trained properly, you're going to get those assets, and you're going to negotiate directly with the bank and have a transparent fee sheet to let you know how much you're going to pay me. So off the top of my head, if it's a note you're paying $20,000 or less, it's like a $1,000 trade desk fee. If it's $35,000 note, it's a $1,500 trading fee. You start getting the 200,000s or more, we're talking percentages, right? But you're going to know up front, so you can do your budget and say, can I buy this note, and can everyone make money? Because that's why I'm here as well, to make money. Just to be clear, is everyone okay with that? Yeah. Okay. As long as we're all okay with everyone making money, then you're in my crowd. So that's what the deal is. I want to let you know that I'm making money as well. You see what it is, you're making your budget, and you make a decision based upon that note, whether you can buy it in good faith, and having everyone in that chain who helps you get it make some money off of it, right? If not, like you said, you walk away, buy another one. It's all about the price you can negotiate with the bank.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the costs associated with buying a note? Like, what are some of the, we kind of understand, right, or a lot of people do, the costs on flipping a property, right? You got closing costs, you have interest costs, you have renovation costs, you have sales commissions, you have another set of closing costs on the back end, property taxes, insurance, all that stuff. What comes with a typical note? I guess when you're only holding the note, and then also once you have to foreclose and take over the property.
Right. So we create a budget sheet that kind of helps with that, but some of the nuances that you wouldn't have to pay if you buy it as an REO is we teach you how to do back title reports to find out if there are any back taxes due. You are responsible for these taxes, no matter if it's $100,000 or if it's $500. That becomes your responsibility as the lender if it's a non-performing note and you choose to take it all the way to foreclosure. If it's a performing note, then it's the responsibility of the borrower up until the point they stop paying. You are going to have force-placed insurance on it, which isn't that different, but there are different nuances that come with that as the lender versus the owner of the property. You're going to have servicing of that loan. So if you have an owner rental, you have a property management company. The servicing world is the property management companies of notes. They make sure that all the documentation gets sent out every single month. They make sure that payments are getting collected. If payments aren't getting collected, they send out a notice to the person saying, hey, we haven't received your payment. You need to send it to us. They make sure that taxes are being paid and insurance is up to date. So they're basically managing that note for you so that you don't have to do it regardless of where it is. You are going to have to worry about things that I didn't realize you have to worry about when you live in California. And if you have a note, say, as an example, in the Midwest, that you're going to have to winterize that property. And you're budgeting stuff like that when it's a vacant property. When it's performing, though, it's a pretty simple process. Really, you're purchasing that note. You're paying a servicer. You're maybe doing some initial due diligence. Well, you're always doing due diligence, but you maybe run a title report, do some basic due diligence, but it's very similar concept to buying an REO from the analysis standpoint, and then it's just a matter of collecting your cash flow. With non-performing, you have a few extra other things, holding costs, that would be the same with an REO, things that you would want to worry about. Attorney fees being the biggest one, depending on the state. It can be anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 to take a note all the way to foreclosure. What I love is that we build all these crazy extra fees into this. And nuance, like Jasmine mentioned, liens, nuisance liens, HOA liens, anything like that you become responsible for as the lender. City code violations, you'd be surprised. I just have a property right now that's vacant that I call and waiting for it to be foreclosed, and it's just getting city code. People keep breaking into my stupid garage. They're like literally ripping the siding off of the garage and living inside the garage, and then I'll get out there and I'll do it, and then they'll rip the door off. I'm like, why? It's not even enjoyable in there anymore, you know? But the cops keep coming by, or the city keeps coming by and giving me more city code violations, and that's just racking up. So these are things that you wouldn't typically have to worry about that you do when you.
Can you explain what force-placed insurance is real quick? Sorry.
Yeah. So if you are the lender on a property, you have to, as it says, place your insurance onto this property, meaning that the person is probably not paying. If they're not paying their mortgage, they're not paying their taxes, they're not paying their insurance. You need a way to protect yourself, but you don't own that property, so you can't have traditional REO type of insurance on the property. So you need a way to protect the asset in case something were to happen to it. So you can get what is called force-placed insurance up to a certain amount, and that protects you as the lender in case anything happens.
For performing note, do you usually have to pay more than the balance to buy it?
So let's talk about performing notes. They're a whole different beast. And actually, before I get into it formally, I have a gentleman back here, Mr. Kim. Do you mind letting him know about the note you just bought from us?
Let's see. First of all, I like performing notes.
This is his gig. He's all performing notes guy.
And the reason is I don't want to go through all that shit. Because for me, income is more important to me than, I understand 30-40% return, but that takes time. For me, I like my income tomorrow. And having owned apartments, having owned investment property, what I like about performing notes is basically you are the bank, literally. They're paying you a mortgage every single month. If they don't pay your mortgage, you get to foreclose on them. Then you go through, it becomes a non-performing note. But 99% of the time, the mortgages that I buy, or the performing notes I buy, are already seasoned. In other words, people have already paid a year or two into the actual home. So there's equity built in, and by the time I get to it, I'm buying it at about 60%, 50% loan to value. And my return is anywhere from 13 to 18%, depending on, where it is. And in California, you're getting about 9%.
Right. So do you mind if you tell me a little bit about the one you just purchased in Texas?
Sure. Okay. So I bought a house in a mortgage, a performing note in Houston, Texas. This was there was an unpaid balance of $99,000. I bought it for $80,000.
It's about 85 cents on the dollar what you're paying for performing notes, guys. Okay.
And the return is about 14.5%.
So, and his LTV is in about 60, right? So let me.
It is 55.
How many can I buy?
No, but listen, because that's your question. However, I want you guys to understand the position he's coming in. Okay. It is very fine for him to sit there and do and say what he's saying, right? But this is a very established and accomplished gentleman. Okay. He's sitting there like nothing. He has I don't even know what to say without giving it, but he has businesses that he's selling. For him, he's not interested in getting capital gains because he has his capital gains. He has capital. He needs to protect that and get income. This is a man who just got back from a cruise, from another cruise. It's been 2 damn cruises since I've been selling him a damn note. And this is what his lifestyle is about, right? He doesn't want to take one photo. So you have to understand, like, is this where you are right now, or do you need to be him eventually, right? Are you in the middle of selling, liquidating, and you want to protect your money? Or you need to build capital, right? So everyone's at different places, right? We have other clients like Dion, right? He works with us. I think he just got good news on one of his notes, if I understand.
Yes.
So, and he's a cash flow thing, but just understand that there's a place for everyone, right? And so he loves performing notes, but then you hear it's 85 cents on a dollar? So he dropped 85 grand. Wired it, now escrow, no down payment, none of that. This is a bank-to-bank business. You have to trust who you're doing business with. And so you think it's nice to be him until I call you and say, where's my 85 grand? And by the way, he sent it to me 3 months ago and still hasn't gotten his note yet. You don't want to be him now all of a sudden. You're like, that's not cool.
But that happens,
but
right?
the interest is accruing.
And he trusts. But that's what a banker looks like. We're here to take you and turn you into that guy right there. Bankers do not care about when their money's coming, okay? He texted me when he got back from the cruise talking about he's landed, and I said, that's great. He's like, do you know where if the note's coming in? I said, I have no idea. And I expected him to be okay with that.
And the servicer said the interest is accruing. So
yeah, and then he called the servicer to check it. We all trust but verify. Like Jasmine's kind of loose.
You got to put a caveat on that.
Go ahead. Yes.
Because the lender wants to know where to send the money.
Well, that's the funny part. So I get in last week, and I get an email from the lender going, the borrower wants to know where to send the money. Because remember, the lender is no longer accepting payments, but by law, when they get it, because that's who you, the borrower, know who to send it to, they call and say, we're not accepting payments. What? We so going, what? Where am I sending it to? I don't know. Hold on. But these are the problems of performing notes. They are dying because now you have a different borrower, right? You have a borrower who put 25% down in Houston, Texas. For all I know, and if I understand correctly, the gentleman who owns his house is renting it out for twice as much as what he's paying him, right? So he has no interest in losing that property. If he misses a payment, we call him not even send an attorney letter, and we're getting caught back up. Yes or no?
Yep.
So that's the beauty of it. That's the difference, but it's a cost. It's a game where you got to pay to play.
And I think it's. If you look at the metrics of that specific deal, right? You bought it at 85% of unpaid balance,
right.
But your loan to value is in a place where even if you had to rehab the whole property, if they destroyed the whole house, you can still go fix it up with that 60% loan to value and go resell it for a profit and make a profit and protect yourself.
But wait,
that is key.
There's so more.
Okay.
There's so much more. Let's say this guy decides after 15 years he's holding this note. He's collecting the income, because by the way, the first 10 years is all interest. Yes or no, all profit. Okay. And then he can sell that note. He can actually transfer that note and sell it to someone else. He now has a transfer instrument. He doesn't have to worry. He can literally, while that guy's sleeping, sell it and liquidate himself out of that note, right?
Or I hold it for 20 years with the notice, and I end up with 200.
I was going to get to that part. I was like, then the real kick in the pants is the TILA, the truth in lending, right? You guys know what that is. Okay, you've sat there. You borrow $100,000 over the next 20 years. I don't care what your rate is. When you're done, you're paying 3 times the amount, and that's why there's a bank on every corner. And that's why he bought the note. He doesn't care if he paid 85. He's going to collect almost $300,000 when it's done. That's his retirement plan. He's a genius.
And if you guys want to get,
he's genius.
If you guys want to get,
yeah,
awesome. Let's give him a round of applause.
Come on, Peter.
I mean, just as FYI, there's notes on the tape right now at 50,000, 60,000, 18,000.
25, 45.
They're performing notes.
How much money do you have?
Well, and what if you guys don't have the money? Okay, you can get really creative. He's got a loan that's what do you say the rate you're making on that right now is like 14.5. What if he found a lender that is understands, he can explain the risk metrics, and he says, you know what, I want to take most of my money off the table, and I'm going to go and borrow 60,000 of it or 70,000 of it at an 8% interest rate.
There's a term for that. It's called hypothecate.
So now he's making the arbitrage with a much less money in the deal, and his return is probably through the roof now on the rest of the money. Now, don't get me wrong, he's got much less of a dollar figure return because he's paying that money out, but he can go take that money and reinvest it into another note. And so if you run out of money, you can do those types of things. Or if you don't have the money in the first place, have a capital investor that you can explain how the metrics of the deal work. If you cannot explain to them how they're protected, you're not raising that money from that investor. And that's just another way to do a note. So, question here, and then we'll come back over here in a second.
There has to be an educational book that you guys recommend.
You said a book? You're so funny. Wait. Let's think about this real quickly. Okay, guys.
Audiobook?
Listen to me. Sure. That's easy. Right. No, let's be honest. Think about this to yourself. Okay. What I'm talking about is, well, first of all, being a bank. Okay. Now, at any point, have any of you walked into a bank and not been given a runaround or got out of there on time? Okay, so now you think that there's a book about banking. Okay, just transparent. No, wait, let me finish. I'm being sarcastic as well, but it's funny because this is what really goes on in this industry, right? So I also got finished you telling you returns where this gentleman's talking about a 15% return, right? Well, banks are giving out 1% less. So no, there's not a book. If there's a book out there, dude, and I promise you, that's the biggest problem with this industry is that education is scarce, and when you find it, most people are not going to take everything. It's like the aunt who asks for the recipe. I love your spaghetti. How can I cook it? She gives you the recipe. She always leaves one ingredient out because you're not going to cook it as good as she is. No, you're not. That's what you're dealing with. Is there a book? I can give you books. There's about 2 books I recommend. The rest of them are autobiographies or like how to be me when you grow up, and that's not what banking is about.
Can you? So the education piece is very important, obviously, to understand how this works. And can you? I've been to a portion of your guys' note lab. I had to leave early, obviously.
You did, didn't you?
But the information that I did get when I was there was really quality. Can you explain to them, because they basically teach this, and so can you explain what that note lab is and how they get that education? Because that's the most, like, if you don't have that education, you're dead in the water before you start, or you're going to make a bunch of mistakes and lose money without that support system there to help you. And that's why she puts people through the ringer on this, because if they're not educated, she looks really bad to the banks, and she's putting people in a bad situation if they don't have the education. Can you kind of explain what you guys do there and how that works?
So the one thing I did not tell you guys about my story is that when we're doing presentations, I normally have a slide up there that shows 2 bookcases that are just filled with books and tapes and things that are wrapped in plastic still, right? Because I'm easy to sell. If you got something to sell, I'm probably a good person to talk to. I promise you. But it's because there's always a book, there's always a cassette, there's always a program, something that sounds really exciting and interesting, and someone's talking about it. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to do it. And then I get home and life happens, and I don't ever open that book, and I don't ever pay attention to that CD, and I have it sitting there for 10 years collecting dust, and I refuse to throw it away because one of these days I'm going to watch that in. I'm going to read it. I know I'm going to, regardless if it's outdated. But what I love about what I did when I saw her is that I went to her 2-day event, right? The 2-day thing, which, again, is another way to get sucked into something. So this is not for everybody. So it's like you have to know what is really something that resonates with you and what is ignorance on fire. What is like you're just excited because I'm excited. That's a different type of thing. But if you're really excited about notes, and there's a lot of potential, and I'm going to digress a little bit, but Matt started talking about some stuff, and when you buy an REO, your options typically are you're going to rent it or you're going to flip it. That's normally it. When you buy a note, there's like 17 different exit strategies. Like Matt and I have several notes together, and I'm like, this one we're going to do this, but potentially these 12 other things, and then this one we're going to do this. Like there's unlimited possibilities. So what I love about this 2-day event is that it teaches you from A to Z everything that notes are about, but it also fundamentally helps you understand what can I do with this note? How do I turn this into money for myself? And what is the right strategy for myself? Because it's not going to be the same thing. You may need capital. You may want cash flow. You may want a little bit of both. There's all these different ways that you can be successful in notes. And then there's this whole sub-world of notes that you don't even know about once you buy a note that I've been brought into recently in the past year that you can make money in. So the 2-day event really is a way to have not only a community of people that are learning what you're learning, but other people in the room that have been doing this stuff, and on top of our, our expertise. But it's also a way to understand like the big picture of what notes are about. And a lot of times I think I know for myself, I'll go to an event and they teach you just enough stuff to make you dependent on them. Just enough to need them a little bit more, right? And that's not what this is about. We don't want to have a bunch of dependent people. We want to have people that can go out there and do this on their own, because one day they may be the people that find a seller and they bring that seller to the table, and now we have notes that we never would have had access to before. So that is what I think the 2-day event's all about.
Yeah, and when is that? Isn't it? You have one coming
Yeah, I was going to
up,
speak on that. So we only do 4 a year. Okay, so this is the twilight of it, but again, that's the beauty of the business. You get to work when you want. So I do 4 training programs a year. Our very last one for 2018 is going to be October 20th. So write it down, 20th and the 21st. I have some flyers back there if you're interested. A couple things about the event. One, she mentioned we don't want dependents, because I have some, and as Matt will tell you, they're pretty demanding. So no, I feel a lot of people go out there and they build what I call mouse traps, right? So when you come to this note lab, you're going to get everything you need to be a successful note investor. True, you've been there. Yes. I'm going to give you the sacred checklist. Like, this is the thing that's got me more frenemies in this industry, because the gurus, you don't give checklists now. I'm giving a checklist. Okay, you're going to give a checklist where you can walk out and do it on your own. Just add water, or should I say, just add entrepreneur. Right? So if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, that can be it. I've had at least 2 to 3 people go into the training program, the 2-day program, and not need anything else. Outside of that, we're going to offer, and I'll tell you right now, this is the only other thing we have. We have a hands-on program. It's $69.95, so for $7,000. If you decide that this is still for you, because real quickly, I want you to understand, you are buying dirt. You are dumpster diving. You are going to become a trash man. Do you understand me? So this is not the glorious life. What's going to happen is someone's going to buy, a boatload of notes from Fannie Mae. Then they're going to call Blackstone, and they're going to take California and Hawaii on sexy stuff. They're going to call their 15 friends, and they're going to take whatever stuff. And then somewhere they're going to call me, and then we're going to get to look through what's left. You understand? So you're going to be going through problem assets that have title issues.
Not necessarily, because there's some good assets in there, like performing notes.
Well, that's a separate thing. But on a non-performing note, right, you're buying problems. And so that's what you have to be prepared for. That's what we spend the most of the class on. Peter's actually going to be up there with us as well. We're going to spend a good portion of time on performing notes. But from our standpoint, if you learn how to deal with a non-performing note, do you know where I'm going with this? Then clearly performing notes are going to be easy, right? So we teach you how to start from what happens if goes bad. All right? You start there, you become the soldier I need you to be. You become Natasha. You become the person that you have a note like Peter, and because not performing, you're not scared at all. You actually find it amusing. Right? You're like, I don't know. Should we go another 30 days? And dang, they sent the payment. Right? That's what the conversation comes to you, because eventually they're going to pay down their mortgage so much that he's going to make more money the minute they stop making their payment. You understand that? That's the bank game. So the 2-day class, it's in San Francisco. Okay? Why is that important? Oh, Lord, someone's feeling me back here. So what we do here is, again, I have a son, he's 9 years old, so we keep it to a 30-person class, okay? I will not put my son into a 500-person class, so you're going to get a small class where you can learn and we can pay attention to you and make sure you're getting it. So I encourage you to sign up today if you can. It's October, we have 10 seats left. We hit 30, that's it. We'll see you next year, okay? So if you're one of those people who, like, I have not hit my goals and I don't want to be making a new resolution from 2019 that looks like the same one in 2018, I'll see you in October, okay? It's going to be up in San Francisco. It's 2 days. We're right outside of the San Francisco airport, so it's not dangerous. You fly in, you go to the hotel.
You're not going to see drug needles everywhere?
We're not doing any of that. We're just flying, go to the hotel. A couple other things about it that I'm really excited to share with you is that you have to understand what's happening, right? I told you how you guys are a unique set of investors. And so you're going to be trapped in a room with other people who are serious about doing notes. They are all accredited investors, okay? So I'm sure we're going to parlay into OPM soon, which is other people's money, right? That's how it's done. I cannot tell you how many success stories I have at my note lab of people finding JVs. So I'm going to leave you with this, and hopefully Natasha will tell you some of her stories. But and you've heard this before, if you have a money problem, it's something that my mother told me. If you have a problem that money can solve, then you do not have a problem at all. Can I get an amen? Amen. Okay, so if you don't have money, okay, the class is $800. I'm sure you got that. Bring your butt to the note lab. You're going to be trapped in a room with a whole bunch of accredited investors. Okay, just as it goes, everyone watches you to see what you're doing. Before you leave, if you get your network on, if you get your skill set on, you will leave with a JV partner, and you're going to leave with assets. Anyone like that idea? Yes.
And it's
that was horrible. That was horrible. You guys like that? I'm giving you assets, money, and a blueprint. Anyone you need more?
That's awesome.
That's awesome. All right, go. Hard crowd, man.
I think it's interesting because if you have having a hard time raising money or you're not sure how to raise capital, it really comes down to, can you explain how they're protected? Like I mentioned, do you have the right asset? Because if you have the right asset, the money will be there for sure.
Ask this lady.
And networking. Do you have the right relationship base? Do you go to events like this constantly and meet new people that have capital? Like, it's a consistent thing. Every single time I come to one of these events, I meet someone with at least $100,000. Every time. And I do this 12 times a year. That's $1.2 million more a year, not on top, not just, that's not even referrals for other people that I get from them over time. Like, this is what happens when you're constantly networking and developing your relationship bases. And so the money is there. It's just a matter of going out and understanding how to protect them, how to explain it to them, and have the right knowledge base so you're not dealing with people that shouldn't be investing with you in the first place. And that's a big challenge, right? Don't ever invest with people that really don't have the right knowledge base or have the right, because they're the ones that are going to go crazy on you later, right when anything goes wrong, so, and it's happened. I've fired investors before because they've been crazy. I had someone scream and yell at us for getting paid off after he signed the release, and the closing attorney sent him his check for his loan, and he screamed at us saying, "I can't believe my money's not invested anymore." And so these are you're like, yeah, sorry, dude, like, you're done. But these are the types of things that happen, and you're dealing with people's money, so there's emotion involved. Anytime there's emotion involved, you want to be careful, make sure everything is explained and they understand. If they don't understand, it's really hard sometimes not to take that money because you need it for your deal, but you shouldn't take it if in the long run, or if you're going to take that initially, get it paid back immediately if you need it for a closing right away, So, that being said, so can we talk a little bit about did anybody else have any questions? I think you had a question first, and then we'll start on the next topic.
Part of what you just said was the question that I had, so you answered it. But, okay, now plan B. If you did not attend San Francisco, tell us more about the online training.
So the online training is not launched yet. It will be launched right around the time of the Note Lab, so at the end of October. So that one's going to be, it's a $39.95 to $4,000 online program. And the funny thing about it to me, I think it's hysterical, is that it's literally Natasha and I giving you the hands-on training via video, right? And so, but it's a 15, each video is 15 minutes, right? But I like to say to people, because every now and then there's other online training programs, but this is me and Natasha on there, right? So you get the skinniest like Jasmine saying, okay, this is one, by the way, So you get all the what should I say, the gray areas in it, but it's really online. So I don't know that it's necessarily a replacement, right? So everyone learns differently. I'm a hands-on person, and that's why the program is built the way it is, right? I learned by doing, but I did realize at some point that some of you guys are up till 3 a.m. watching the video talking about rewind again, rewind again, rewind again. And so that's it's going to be offered to the people who join the $7,000 program. So you're going to have that as well, obviously, if they can back up your current training. But for those of you who, maybe you're a millennial and you don't like talking to people, right? You just want to catch people all day. So go online. I got a chat. Sign up. You don't have to talk to a human being. That's what that's for. But if you learn better by talking to people and asking questions, then I just suggest hands-on training, because when you think about the numbers and talk to some of these guys out here, when you talk about the profits you're making, and Natasha can even tell you, you're making money for the first time in your life to get trained. $7,000 to buy for the training, right? Did you profit from your first deal, Dion?
Yes.
Yes or no? Come on.
Yes.
Damn it. How do you profit from a deal that you had a guru in? Ask this gentleman, right?
It's awesome.
One quick question. When we talk about returns, how do you what's the calculation of the returns that we're talking about? 9%, 14%?
That's not something we can cover right now. How do I calculate that? So I have a spreadsheet, blah, 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 I'm not going to tell you. But, we use, again, it's a brain game. So we use a lot of internal IRR, right? Internal.
So it's an internal.
We use that, yeah. But you can keep it. I train you with a real simple one, cash on cash, right? The numbers at the cash on cash, and again, Mac can attest because I wanted to make the biggest joke, so I'm going to make it now, right? He's talking about how to close deals. How do you close someone? Guess who closed Matt? Hello? Get some close math.
And that's not an easy sell.
It's
because
not.
honestly,
I was like, what?
I'm immediately looking at it going, where's every hole? And wait a minute, what do you mean you don't get your documents for 3 months after I
We're
fund
his
the
first
money?
note deal,
You
right?
know,
But
we're
he's-
supposed to trust Bank of America? Like, you know, so,
What's
but
up?
yeah, I mean, yeah,
But-
you know, so.
So, but that is a tribute to everything he said, having the right asset, having the right conversation, and having simple numbers, right? So yes, IRR, people show up with these Texas Instrument calculators. You come to my class, we're not doing it. I'm going to tell you to download something called Cause Calculator, and he spells it with a K, okay? And we're going to show you how to do some basic math, because really that's all you need for real estate. And with the numbers we're doing, if you can calculate a cash-on-cash return at 22%, why are we going to continue and argue about what the IRR is? Is IRR 45 or 35? I don't know. We're not talking about that. I was good at 22.
Would it be helpful if we gave some examples of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just on the financial calculator piece, like they sell the ones that I'm an accountant. You know I'm.
Yeah, all right, go ahead.
What is she talking about? Don't use the calculator. What do you mean?
Why?
You know, so I use what's called the 10BII financial calculator. It's an app on your phone. It's like $6 or something, and you just here's your interest rate, here's your purchase price, here's all your metrics. What did I buy it for? Boom, done. You know what your interest rate is on your loan. Very simple. They have tutorial videos on YouTube and things like that. I personally use it every single day. It spits out amortization.
But we come up with the
schedules,
same figures. So
yeah,
look at
same
what you
figures. She
use.
does the math like a different way, and I'm like, wait, how did that work?
So we got to deal with it.
Yeah, it's really just a deal.
I have
Yeah.
Matt as a JV partner, and when I talk to him, a lot of times I hear his head literally going beep boop beep boop boop, and I'm like, please stop. Like, how did you get this? I'm like, I don't know. We have the thing set that that's yeah, but anyway, so Kim, you want some examples? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll give you guys some quick examples of non-performing stuff, maybe even a reperforming. But so it was like my second deal in North Carolina. We bought this crappy old RV or like a mobile home on 2 acres of land that nobody had been sitting on the tape forever.
2 years.
Yeah, nobody
Man.
wanted it. I had been vacant for 10 years, so nobody wanted this. But when I started calling some wholesalers in the local area, I realized that the land was really valuable. It was near a river, and it was worth like $40,000, just the land itself. And so I was able to buy it for $4,000 because they only owed about $9,000 left on the property. So I got it for it was been vacant forever, so I was like, cool, we're just going to foreclose on it, no big deal. We found out that the borrowers lived in Florida, and I don't know if you guys remember what happened in September of last year in Florida, but a big hurricane came through. And so our borrowers, right, we were about 30 days away from having the home back in our possession, and the borrowers called us and go, hey, guess what? We want to move back to North Carolina. And we want to save our house. So can you tell us how to start making payments after 10 years? I said, yeah, no, I'm not taking payments from you. And they said, okay, well, how much can we pay you? And so I calculated all my attorney fees and all the late fees and blah, blah, blah. Came up with an amount of $12,500, and they showed up at my attorney's office with a check for $12,500, paid me off in 3 months, and I was into the deal for maybe about 5 with my attorney fees. So when you talk about percentages, there was nowhere in any calculation was I ever going to think that after 10 years a borrower was going to show up with a full payoff check for anything. Why would you want this place, right? But that's the thing with notes is that there are so many different, now I've created Excel spreadsheets that have at least 8 different exit strategies where I can make money. And if I can make money in at least 5 or 6 of those, I'm happy.
That's hot.
Yeah, if you
like 5. Okay, now I'll do the deal. Okay, now.
Right.
You know?
And so I jokingly always say, like, when I first started out, I was so excited because my second deal was going to make 600% return, and I only been making 200. And I'm like, boo, no problems. But this is really honestly what happens. And that's not to say that every deal is that way. There's deals where I'm still in the process of, like, how in the world am I going to salvage this and make money on it? You can get yourself into trouble by buying too high, by not calculating, doing smart due diligence, not calculating back taxes. There are ways to lose money in notes, always, always. But there are a lot more ways to make money, and there are ways that when you get into the deal, you cannot even predict.
Tell me about the Wisconsin one, or the Oshkosh. That's a good one.
Oh, yeah. And kind of a similar concept, except that the person bought it as non-performing. We honestly didn't think the house was worth a ton. But they were able to, someone knocked on the door for them 30 days into the deal and said, hey, we're part of your lender. This is where you send your payment. And the guy sent in a check. He was in arrears, meaning that he was this far behind, about $11,000. And he was going through a divorce, wanted to save his home, and wrote a check for $11,000 to make himself whole. And one of the things you have to understand as a lender is you may go into it thinking, I want to foreclose on this property. It's got value. But now if they write you a check and make themselves whole, you have yourself a performing note. There is nothing legally you can do to take that property back. You have to let them start making payments again. So she was like, dang it. I got half of my money back, but I have to start making payments. She was in it 20. She got 11 back, so she's in it to a 9 now. She's like, whatever, I guess I'll just start taking payments. Fast forward 2 months, the guy stops making payments, doesn't want to keep his house anymore, and now she's going to foreclose on it after she got 11 grand. Why people do what they do.
So let's recap on this real quick, because I really want you to understand, like, this does not happen in real life, okay? So you invest 20 grand, you get 50% of your money back within the first couple months, right? Then you start collecting payments to the tune of $400, $500 for 2 or 3 months. Then the guy says, I don't want this house anymore. So now you're like, okay, I'm going to send my foreclosure loan, foreclose on this house, which is worth about $70,000 to, I think, $80,000. It's called money, money, and money. She's in it 9 grand, okay? When she finished foreclosing on this, maybe add an average of $5,000 to it, if it takes that long, depending on the taxes, maybe nuisance liens. I tell you to put about $5,000 aside. 9 plus 5, you're at $14,000. Do you think she can find a flipping formula fortune builder or somebody out there that wants to damn buy that thing from her? Like, talk to me. And you think she wants to sell it?
Yes.
No, because she can make so much money off of it. But you understand? Options.
It's interesting because there's so many different exit strategies here. Like on the deals we're doing, there's one went reperforming, one foreclosed. One of them we're waiting on, I think, paperwork on still. But just all normal and part of the process. Of course, the first one she gets me, she brings me a property on Hooker Street. I'm like, I want this. And then she's like, here on Clinton Avenue. I'm like, no politicians. No politicians at all. So, I'm like, it's the name of the street. Sorry. But, the good thing about that, like, who here in the room wants to do all the workload involved in these workouts to get that higher return, and it has the time to do that? Anybody? Okay. That's who here in the room just wants to get a check and doesn't want to do any work? Okay. So
I'm open to that.
This is exactly, you guys, the vast majority in the room is exactly where I'm at. I do way too much other flipping. It's like if you and I try to go do all this workout right now, it's a whole nother learning curve. But it's great if you have the time to do it. I don't have the time. Jasmine already has the experience. I'm like, going with Jasmine. I don't care if she takes a profit split or most of the profit or whatever the heck it is. As long as I get my return. I didn't tell her that up front. I was like, I want X amount. But in reality, like, it's great because she already knows how to do this. She's got her processes, her team members in place. I don't have to worry so much knowing that I have, someone there. And now, like, we have a reperforming note. What's the LTV on that note right now? The $20,000 one?
Oh gosh, I don't even know.
It's like really low. But what we're talking about now, we're selling it to someone else. Like, we're looking for someone that wants it for 10% interest rate on their money, reperforming now for 20 grand, and it's really, really low loan to value. You think we're not going to be able to find an investor as soon as I have time to put it on the market? So to actually go and find that investor to come in and liquidate us for that 20,000. Right now we're making a little bit of a spread and things like that. It's not super amazing, but we got it reperforming, and once we sell it, we'll get a big chunk of money back.
I just had a huge light bulb come off. Do you mind if I share it with you?
Yeah, please.
Well, they don't want to hear it. I'm done.
No, it's almost 9. They're getting tired. They're like, oh man, you and a lot of information. So
you're gonna like this one. Okay, he just made me realize what is going on. Like, by the show of hands, we just saw a lot of people who said I'd rather not do the work. Okay. So I'm not sure who kept their hands down, but you just have found yourself a damn career. You found yourself a new niche. Get going. Show up to No Lab. It's the same thing. You're going to find people with money. You're going to find the Matts, right, who don't have time to learn everything. So I said, Matt, bring your butt to the Note Lab just so you know what we're doing is regular, that you can trust what Natasha tells you, right? And now she handles it. You can be Natasha. I would love for her to just explain to you, like, how many JV partners she has in the last year, how her net worth has changed, right? But this is how it happens. You're as she likes to say, the belle of the ball, right? You come in, and no one else knows about notes but you, but everybody wants to not do any work and get checks. Sounds like you have a good problem now. So be the one who knows notes. Come to the Note Lab in October. And now you come out here and do what Matt's not going to do because he's got to pay.
Yeah, and real quick, I know we got to wrap it up here soon, so I'll just tell you guys real fast. So I started, I didn't buy my first note until January 2017 because I waited a while for various reasons. I got myself into like $70,000 worth of debt for wholesaling gurus and hadn't made a lot of that money back. And so I waited a while, and then I bought about 22 notes in my first year using other people's money. And so I went from owing other people $70,000 to now having $1.8 million worth of ARV assets in my portfolio. That is thing I right now can walk into a room and consider myself.
It's amazing what this business can do for you. You can also you can take hits on it. That's why the education is so important, to make sure you know what you're doing. But at the same time, you guys see the amount of resources in the room, the different people that have different wants, the different people that have the time now to do these things and learn them. So it's all about the resources of the different people that can help you do this if you don't have those resources yourself. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end that on that note, so that way you guys can have some time networking before they kick us out of this room. And so thank you guys very much. Please feel free to ask these guys questions.